Hey, I'm Stephen Leake, inventor of Sophia AI, the Modern X platform, private intranet, and all manner of other stuff. And people that only know me from my recent star for the past year, see me as some kind of a unique figure, having all this crazy luck, being seemingly brilliant, and being able to do stuff that doesn't make sense. That's only happened in the past 1 year. You don't see like almost 30 years of consistent hard ass work every single day, almost just a slow positive movement. Because that's really not how I started. Just like a random hardworking kid from the middle of the woods from the south. I just did not give up. I knew from the beginning that what I was seeing happening in Iraq, with all my friends were having to go fight, didn't add up. We were either we were just clearly not fighting to win. And I know that from my own experience being a West Point appointee, that the guys around me were just as smart and capable. It doesn't make sense that these guys wouldn't know how to fight or win this war. It was intentionally being done. There were reasons for it. They started to understand years into this quest, and just to find truth, figure out what the fuck is actually happening, the world around us in reality, and where our country fought wars didn't make sense, and the economy didn't seem to work for anybody. And there would be actual reasons for this. There'd be solutions. Would you be able to find out if you actually just dug far enough? And I basically just stayed hard ass onto that for decades, building bit by bit, understanding of more and more how reality worked and how power structures worked, and the reality of our political system, all kind of stuff like that. And that stuff kind of compounds. I just stayed honest, stayed persistent, tried to stay aligned to something greater than me. I wasn't all that religious for most of my life. Still, I wouldn't say religious at all right now. It's obvious that we're better civilizationally. We're overtly more Christian. And there's something true to that wasn't necessarily overtly obvious. It's just become the operating understanding of most of mainstream society. This is parables and moral teachings. It's never really actually happened, and that's not what reality is, certainly. And this blah blah blah. No, man, not at all, not even a little bit. And that's the rub. That's the trick. The trick is the modern scientific materialism. That's what's not accurate, actually, by the way. Yeah, so I came to understand that actually being good at science, that science itself contradicted the rest of science, and it wasn't all equal. There were some things that were more true than other things, and some things were outright falsehoods and bullshit. Clearly accepted as just religious fact, overtly obvious. Of course, solar systems and exoplanets and aliens. This is all real shit. Apparently, fuck. There's no evidence that any of that is even real. And then I can point to historical things, trends within emergent, just global trends. I can point back to historical truths, the way that just using logic, extrapolation, and deduction. If X exists, and statistically speaking, this and this, what would be likely to be the case? Just that basically is it, man. Just literally, it's just logic and common sense. No special reasoning or powers or tech back then. And when I started, seriously, I literally just, if you've been using that basic thing, if this is true and we've established this fact, then if this is also what we're being presented with, one of these things, both of these things are not true. So which one is not true? That kind of shit. And I just approach everything basically saying, okay, so if we know that this and this, or what we can clearly establish as fact, what is the statistical likelihood that this also is the case, or this and that? Just shit like that. Just personal reasoning within my own head. So I can begin to see these things and study them obsessively. And after years of doing this, it becomes intuitive. I don't sit there and stare at a system. I can just recognize the signal, the pattern, and make a judgment call. And that's why I get so kind of can do stuff really quickly. It seems within days, coming up with new novel shit. It's been built. I've been building up this capability my whole life. Not because of just because of personally, man. I wonder you're basically telling me that my friends basically whole lives are built on shit like this, and if this is not true, then what else might also not be true? Which led me down other paths and shit. And I'm not like, I literally like never got to like forwent like any kind of normal life or family or kids and shit, just for this. And so like ultimately, if you know those things about me, and like just I'm like a genuinely honest guy, and I just love people. It really isn't more complicated than that. I'm not the smartest guy in my high school class. I'm like 30 out of a class of 200, like not even like really to the top 10 or shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's not about like just being smart. It's more about intuitive and just going out and having like life experience, just doing the same thing over and over, developing pattern recognition, intuitive thinking, shit like that. Way more important than anything else, involving like just being brilliant or lucky, whatever else. And the rest of it's just like knowing something about like natural law and what just how any decent person would operate or like go about his life, or should, I would think, if he had the opportunity to like understand what the rules were. Well, I just took my own time using publicly available information, using, like I said, logical extrapolation, statistical like likelihood of this and that. That's all basically it. Just over a long period of time, continuously doing that. Just like I'd watch the same conspiracy videos that all the other random guys that my age love and shit, but I actually do pretty much like for a purpose. It wasn't just entertainment. I was trying to establish what is the pattern here. What do people keep saying over and over that's clearly different than here, this instance? Just approach it like as an engineer. All kind of things. And ultimately, man, shit becomes intuitive. You can just use your gut. At 40 now, I can clearly see bullshit. So it's just basically just developing pattern recognition skills, general critical thinking. It's really ultimately all it is. Just apply to how I personally interact with the world, my own like native way of thinking. Ultimately, that's all. There's like something exotic or secret about what I do. And then living honestly in the world. I don't like force my shit or way of thinking on other people. I respect other people's sovereignty or will. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't try to dominate others. I don't seek power, shit like that. I live like humbly and honestly. There's no like ultimate, like, there's no like secret. It's no like shit that isn't taught in kindergarten really. I just like an asshole and like persistent about it. Basically, it's the only real actual secret. You know what I mean? And so it's like that's really all it is. So keep that in mind. That's the best advice I can give you. A clear explanation of like why I start from the life I've had, ending up where I am now. And that's really all there is to it, man. But anyway, it's a almost 10-minute explanation, and I'm continuing to do all that. Just live honestly. I don't lie. I don't bullshit. If I'm speculating, I say so. I have a personal opinion. I say, well, this is just what I think. I don't force my belief system on anybody else. And ultimately, man, that's not how. Even if you did want to like proselytize the faith, anything like that, you still can't force on anyone. Period. That's not how it fucking works. Personal belief and personal relations. Like the whole point of Jesus is to establish personal, direct communion with the divine. Basically, we're just reminding people of that they already have that. Like that's basically all it is, man. He's just telling you, like, look, man, you already have all you need. And then, like, the Romans kind of basically adopted like this whole execution story, and they have you focus on that. So it becomes more about human sacrifice, which is just their native religion, pre-Christian religion. And that's obvious to anybody that actually understands and studies Christian, because original Christianity and the kind of Coptic and like Gnostic traditions, which was the original church, by the way. The original Christians was directly influenced by like the apostles in Christ were Gnostics. They preached direct communion with the divine, direct experience, and similar concepts. They didn't preach the Roman Catholic Bible. They didn't preach ritual and church and things like that. It's just, that is literally just a 300 years later Roman interpretation of what Christianity never really was to begin with. And that's not debatable. It's like just literally the history of the early church. So, I mean, you can extrapolate with yourself. Like, the Catholic Church has been replete with like murder and political violence and communism and like child pedophilia. This is like their ongoing thing. They have every power they need to change their own system. If their entire like architecture is all in the shape of snakes and shit, this is all overtly dark and shit, then, you know, there's a word in English, and I've said this before, or a concept about the English language, in many ways, all like many different kinds of languages. If something gives off the feeling of being like something, you can almost basically just take it to the bank. Is what that word literally means, or the context of that word. I've used the context of like some like David Bowie's like last videos and shit, where just like overtly talking about something about like just dark and fucked up. You may be able to immediately put your finger on it, but you can tell it's what the vibe you get. And this is not like wholesome shit at all. And like, he doesn't have to outright say it, but you know that's what he's talking about, right? Like, this is just not how somebody that's like decent and like wholesome goes about interacting with the world. Just kind of dark fucking imagery and like just the little words, man. You know. And that's when, like I said, you just use your gut and how it makes you feel. That's like a legitimate, feature of like the English language. And I'm pretty sure other languages too. I don't speak other languages, but I'm just saying, like, from what I know about English, like that's an actual like feature of the language. Like, I don't know, I just don't know the word off the top of my head what it is, but I do know that from being like a literal fucking author. But I mean, you know, keep that in mind. And also, I talk extensively about being aware of what you consume. That all has like symbolic meaning. If you're basically just consuming with no like barrier between your fucking bare consciousness and just straight no disbelief, no filter or anything, just basically like imprinting onto your like bare consciousness, like literally whatever they want to. So please be mindful of what you watch, and don't just zone out. And just, I know it feels good. It feels good for a reason now, because it's literally just a drug. It's an electronic drug, right? It's no different than me taking, you know, pain medicine, but I also have like legitimate physical problems to like also as well. It's like that, and it's literally no different than that. It's just an electronic version of a drug, which you just literally zone out in front of it. You know, your jaw drops and it feels good. Of course, it's a drug. It's a mind-altering, psychoactive drug. You know, nobody tells you it's a drug, and it puts it in that context, but it's what it is. You know, gather around. It's got a ritual component. It's like any drug anybody's ever done. You smoke weed, for God's sakes. You have your own kind of paraphernalia around. You do it with your friends. It becomes its own thing, a ritual, if you will, right? It doesn't come from nothing, by the way. There's a reason it feels good. And I'm a libertarian still to this day. I don't think that drugs themselves outright are bad or this or that. Like anything like technology also, I don't think it's bad or good outright. Ultimately about the intent behind it and how you use it, etc. as a human being putting intent behind it. Anyway, that's coming on to 15 minutes. But that's like literally like just my philosophy, man, how I interact with the world. Ultimately, it's no big secret. You know, it's anything weird. Just I want to do good in the world. I've never compromised with evil and bullshit. That's literally all it is. And, you know, that couple years ago, man, just outright, I mean, I just prayed, man. Like, literally just like I'm coming up on 40 years old. Just getting down to the wire as far as being able to do anything with my life. So what's going to happen, man? Just make me, I'm going to squeeze as much use to my fellow man as I can in one human life. Be along the lines of what I basically literally asked for. I wasn't expecting like an immediate literal, you know, granting of that in this way, but here we are. I got what I wanted, ultimately. You never hear me complain about him. Even though it's kind of sucks sometimes to be this kind of shadow banned harassed, but man, somebody that heavily, you know, fucked with, maybe somebody you want to listen to, or at least doing something worth noticing. You just put it that way. Alright, man, that's enough. I'm Stephen Leake. Come find me, kid. I love you guys. Keep your chin up. You're gonna win.